The morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Maya Johnson's studio apartment, painting soft gold across the warm but spotlessly clean floors. She sat at her small kitchen table, cradling a mug of coffee between her hands, staring at the cream-colored envelope that had arrived in yesterday's mail. Lincoln High School. 10-year reunion. Maya hadn't thought about Lincoln High in years, or rather, she'd worked hard not to think about it. Those 4 years had carved wounds into her spirit that even a decade hadn't fully healed. She'd been the girl who wore the same 3 outfits on rotation, whose shoes had cardboard stuffed inside to cover the holes. The girl whose mother cleaned houses while fighting cancer, who brought discount store notebooks to class while others flaunted designer bags. The girl they'd called Charity Case Maya. She set down her coffee and opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside, elegant script announced the reunion at the Grandview Hotel, the fanciest venue in their small Georgia town. There was a handwritten note paper clipped to the invitation. Maya, we'd love to see you there. It's been too long. Can't wait to catch up. Amber Preston. Amber Preston. Head cheerleader. Queen of the popular crowd. The same girl who'd once loudly asked the cafeteria why Maya's lunch always smelled weird, when it was just the rice and beans her mother had stretched to feed them both. The same girl who'd organized the senior class trip to the Bahamas that Maya couldn't afford, then made sure everyone knew who wasn't coming. Maya's phone buzzed. Her best friend since college, Kaisha, was video calling. Girl, you look like you've seen a ghost, Kaisha said the moment Maya's face appeared on screen. Worse, my high school reunion invitation just arrived. Kaisha's eyebrows shot up. Lincoln High? The place where those bougie kids made your life miserable? That's the one. Maya held up the invitation to the camera. Amber Preston personally invited me. In handwriting. Oh, hell no, Kaisha said flatly. Maya, you know what this is, right? They want to see if you're still struggling. They want to feel superior and relive their glory days by comparing their lives to yours. Maya knew Kaisha was probably right. But something else flickered in her chest, something that felt dangerously close to challenge. What if I went? Maya said quietly, What? What if I actually showed up? Kaisha leaned closer to her phone screen. Honey, I love you, but why would you put yourself through that? You've built a beautiful life. You're a certified public accountant with your own growing practice. You've got nothing to prove to those people. Maya stood and walked to her window, looking out at the modest but vibrant neighborhood she'd chosen to call home. Kaisha was right about her life. After her mother passed during Maya's sophomore year of college, she'd worked 3 jobs to finish her degree. She'd studied accounting because numbers made sense. They were fair, logical, unbending. In numbers, there was no room for cruelty or exclusion. She built her practice slowly, honestly, serving working families and small businesses in overlooked communities. People who needed someone who understood what it meant to count every dollar. Her client list had grown steadily through word of mouth and genuine care. I'm not going to prove anything to them, Maya finally said. But maybe I need to prove something to that scared 17-year-old girl I used to be. The one who believed she was less than just because she had less than. Kaisha was quiet for a long moment. If you're serious about this, then we're doing it right. When is it? 3 months from now. Saturday, June 15th. Then we've got time to prepare. But Maya promised me something. Don't let them hurt you again. You're worth 10 of any of them. After they hung up, Maya sat back down at her table. She picked up the invitation again, reading Amber's note more carefully. There was something about the excessive enthusiasm that felt performative, staged. Like Amber was extending this invitation because she expected Maya to decline or worse, to show up looking exactly as broken as they'd left her. Maya thought about the girl she'd been at Lincoln High, quiet Maya. who'd eaten lunch in the library to avoid the cafeteria's social minefield. Maya, who'd worn her shame like a second skin, who'd made herself small and invisible, hoping that if she didn't take up space, maybe they'd forget to target her. But they never forgot. Bullies never do. She remembered the senior award ceremony, when Amber and her friends had created a fake superlative, most likely to stay exactly where they are, and announced Maya's name, laughing as her face burned with humiliation. The teachers had done nothing. The principal had called it harmless fun. Maya folded the invitation carefully and placed it on her refrigerator. Held by a magnet, 3 months. She had 3 months to decide who she wanted to be when she walked through those doors. Maya couldn't stop thinking about the invitation. It sat on her refrigerator like a dare, catching her eye every morning as she made coffee. Every evening when she returned home from work, work had become her sanctuary. Her office was a modest space in a strip mall between a family-owned bakery and a tax preparation service, but it was hers. The sign on the door read, Johnson and Associates Accounting, even though Maya was the only associate. She'd learned early that presentation mattered in business, even if the reality was humbler. On Wednesday afternoon, she was reviewing quarterly statements for the Garcia family's small restaurant when her door chimed. Mrs. Patricia Harrison walked in, a retired schoolteacher who'd been one of Maya's first clients. Maya? Sweetheart, you look troubled, Mrs. Harrison said, settling into the chair across from Maya's desk with the familiarity of someone who'd known her for years. Maya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Just thinking about something from the past. The past has a way of knocking when we least expect it, Mrs. Harrison observed. Want to talk about it? Maya found herself telling the older woman about the reunion, about Lincoln High, about Amber Preston and the years of quiet cruelty that had shaped so much of who she'd become. Mrs. Harrison listened without interrupting, her brown eyes warm with understanding. When Maya finished, the older woman leaned forward. My dear, I taught for 37 years. I saw countless children like you, brilliant, hardworking, kind, made to feel small by children who confused privilege with worth. And I saw those same humble children grow into remarkable adults, while their tormentors often stayed exactly where they were, emotionally speaking. She paused. The question isn't whether you should go. The question is, what do you want to feel when you leave? Maya considered this. I want to feel free. Free from the shame they made me carry. Then go, Mrs. Harrison said simply. But go for yourself. Not for them. That evening, Maya made a decision. She called Kaisha. I'm going to the reunion. Okay then, Kaisha said, and Maya could hear the smile in her voice. Let's make a plan. Over the next few weeks, Maya threw herself into preparation, not just external, but internal. She started seeing Dr. Williams, a therapist Kaisha had recommended, to work through the emotional residue of her high school years. Shame is a heavy thing to carry, Dr. Williams told her during their second session. It makes us believe we're fundamentally flawed. But Maya, you survived poverty. You survived loss. You built a life of integrity and service. That's not who they said you were. That's who you chose to become. Maya began to see her past differently, not as a source of humiliation, but as evidence of her strength. She'd been through fire and come out refined, not destroyed. Meanwhile, her business continued to grow. She took on a new client, a young woman named Jasmine, who just opened a hair salon and needed help organizing her finances. Jasmine reminded Maya of herself, determined, scared, hoping that hard work would be enough. I can't afford to mess this up, Jasmine told her during their first meeting. This salon is everything. Then we'll make sure the numbers work in your favor, Maya assured her. You focus on your craft. I'll help you build the foundation. As May turned into early June, Maya began to notice something. The more she focused on her work, on helping people like Jasmine build their dreams, the less power the reunion seemed to hold over her. The invitation was still on her refrigerator, but it no longer felt like a threat. It felt like an opportunity to close a chapter. One evening, 2 weeks before the reunion, Maya was locking up her office when she saw someone standing by her car. Her heart jumped, but it was just a man in an expensive suit, looking lost. "Excuse me," he said. "I'm looking for Johnson and Associates." "The GPS says it's here, but that's my firm," Maya said, gesturing to her office door. The man looked genuinely surprised. "You're Johnson?" "I'm Marcus Webb. I was referred by Patricia Harrison. She said you're the best accountant in town for small business owners who actually care about their clients." Marcus, it turned out, owned a tech startup that had just received significant funding. He was looking for an accountant who could help him scale responsibly, who understood the value of sustainable growth over quick profits. "I've been burned by corporate firms who only cared about maximizing their own fees," Marcus explained. "Mrs. Harrison said you were different. Said you had integrity." They talked for an hour in Maya's office. By the end, Marcus had hired her to handle his company's accounting. It was the biggest contract Maya had ever landed, one that would allow her to expand, maybe even hire that associate to justify the "and associates" part of her name. As Marcus left, he turned back. "Mrs. Harrison also said you'd been through some tough times. She said that's why you understand what it means to build something from nothing." "I respect that." After he drove away, Maya sat in her car for a long moment. This was her life now. Not the life they'd predicted for her at Lincoln High, where she'd be stuck struggling exactly where she'd started. She built something real, something meaningful. The reunion was in 12 days, and for the first time, Maya felt genuinely ready. She texted Kaisha, "Let's go shopping this weekend. I want to look like myself, just the best version." Kaisha's response was immediate. "Now that's what I'm talking about. This is going to be good." Maya smiled in the darkness of her car. Mrs. Harrison was right. This wasn't about them. It had never been about them. It was about the girl she used to be finally meeting. The woman she'd become and realizing they'd both been worthy all along. Maya should have known that. Peace never lasted long. She was working late on Thursday evening, finalizing Marcus Webb's first quarterly projection when her phone rang. The number was local, but unfamiliar. "Johnson and Associates. This is Maya." "Maya Johnson?" The voice was male, smooth, with an edge of amusement that made her stomach tighten. "Wow, I wasn't sure you'd actually pick up." She knew that voice. It had haunted her nightmares for years. "Who is this?" "It's Brandon Mitchell. From Lincoln High? I'm helping organize the reunion, and Amber mentioned she'd invited you. Just wanted to personally reach out and make sure you're coming. It wouldn't be complete without you." Brandon Mitchell, Amber's boyfriend's senior year. The one who'd started the charity case nickname. The one who'd once tripped her in the hallway, scattering her books everywhere. Then laughed as she scrambled to pick them up while dozens of students stepped over her like she was invisible. Maya's hand tightened on her phone. "I received the invitation." "Great. So you'll be there?" His tone was too eager, too pleased. "I mean, it'll be interesting to see how everyone turned out, you know? Some people really make something of themselves. Others ... He let the sentence dangle. Maya felt the old shame trying to crawl back into her chest. That familiar voice telling her she didn't belong, would never belong. But something else rose up stronger. Dr. Williams' words. "You don't owe anyone your discomfort." "I'll be there," Maya said quietly. "And Brandon?" "I'm looking forward to it." She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking. She set down her phone and took 3 deep breaths, the way Dr. Williams had taught her. This was a tactic. They were trying to rattle her before she even arrived. to make sure she showed up already defeated. The next morning, Maya's resolve was tested again. She stopped at the bakery next to her office for her usual coffee and found Amber Preston standing at the counter, looking perfectly put together in designer athleisure, her blonde hair in an artfully messy ponytail. "Maya? Oh my God, is that really you?" There was no escape. The bakery was small, and Amber was already walking toward her with outstretched arms. Maya accepted the brief, perfume-drenched hug. "I can't believe you're still in town," Amber said, her voice carrying that same saccharine enthusiasm from her note. "I thought for sure you'd have moved to Atlanta or something." "I like it here," Maya said evenly. "I have my own business." "Oh, that's so sweet. What do you do?" "I'm an accountant. I have my own practice." Amber's smile flickered, just for a second. "How nice. So you're doing people's taxes?" "I provide comprehensive financial services for individuals and businesses," Maya corrected. "Tax preparation, bookkeeping, financial planning, business consulting. Well, good for you." Amber's tone suggested she was humoring a child. "Brandon and I are so excited for the reunion. He actually just sold his father's car dealership for a fortune. We've been traveling Paris, Dubai, the Maldives. Life's been crazy." She laughed, touching Maya's arm. "But it'll be fun to come home and see how everyone else is doing. Some people really peaked in high school, you know? It's sad." The implication was clear. Maya wasn't supposed to be one of the success stories. "I'm sure it'll be interesting," Maya said, retrieving her coffee from the counter. "I should get to work." "Of course. Don't work too hard." Amber's eyes swept over Maya's simple blouse and slacks, professional, but clearly not designer. "See you in a week." Maya walked to her office, her coffee bitter on her tongue. Once inside, she sat at her desk and put her head in her hands. They were circling. First Brandon's call, now this convenient encounter. They were making sure she knew her place before she even walked through the door. Her phone buzzed. "Kaisha. Just checking in. How are you feeling?" Maya considered lying, then decided against it. "Amber was at the bakery this morning. She made sure to let me know how successful she and Brandon are, how much they've traveled, how some people peaked in high school." "That insecure witch," Kaisha said immediately. "Maya, you know what she's doing, right? She's intimidated." "Intimidated? By me?" "Yes. Think about it. Why else would they go out of their way to contact you? If they really thought you were beneath them, they'd ignore you. The fact that they're trying this hard to make you feel small means they're worried you won't be small anymore." Maya hadn't considered that angle. "You really think so?" "I know so. Confident people don't need to put others down. She's scared of what you represent, someone who survived everything and still built a life. That's threatening to people whose only achievement is being born into privilege." After they hung up, Maya opened her laptop. On impulse, she searched for Brandon Mitchell online. What she found was interesting. Yes, he'd sold his father's dealership, but according to local business news, he'd sold it because it was failing. The dealership had been in debt, facing lawsuits from customers over fraudulent practices. Brandon had sold it quickly, quietly, and the new owners had spent a year rebuilding its reputation. She searched for Amber. Her social media was public, filled with photos of exotic locations, designer bags, and champagne brunches. But between the glamorous posts were hints of something else. Complaints about Brandon working too much. Vague posts about fake friends and knowing your worth. A telling post from 3 months ago. Sometimes the life that looks perfect isn't the one that feels perfect. Maya closed her laptop slowly. These weren't happy people. They were performing happiness, just like they performed superiority in high school. She thought about her own life. The quiet satisfaction of helping Jasmine's salon turn profitable. The grateful handshake from Mr. Garcia when she'd saved his restaurant thousands in unnecessary taxes. The respect in Marcus Webb's eyes when she'd presented a 5-year growth strategy that prioritized sustainability over greed. Thought her life wasn't glamorous, but it was real. It was hers, and it was built on something that mattered. That weekend, Maya went shopping with Kaisha. Not at the high-end boutiques where Amber probably shopped, but at a small black-owned store where the owner, Ms. Lorraine, had an eye for elegant simplicity. "I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard," Maya explained. "I want to look like myself." Ms. Lorraine studied her thoughtfully, then pulled out a deep emerald dress, simple, classic, with clean lines that would highlight Maya's natural grace. When Maya tried it on, she barely recognized herself. She looked powerful, professional, present. "That's the one," Kaisha breathed. Maya looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. This wasn't armor. This was truth. The reunion was in 4 days, and Maya was ready to face whatever they had planned. 3 days before the reunion, everything fell apart. Maya arrived at her office Monday morning to find an official-looking letter slipped under her door. Her heart sank as she recognized the letterhead, Lincoln County Business Bureau. With shaking hands, she opened it. "Dear Ms. Johnson, we have received a formal complaint regarding Johnson and Associates Accounting, alleging unprofessional conduct, misrepresentation of credentials, and potential financial misconduct." The words blurred. Someone had filed an official complaint against her business. An anonymous complaint, the letter stated, but one serious enough to trigger a formal investigation. Until the investigation concluded, there would be a notice on her business license. Her clients would be notified. Maya sank into her chair, the letter falling from her hands. This would destroy everything she'd built. Even if the investigation cleared her, and it would, because she'd done nothing wrong, the stain would remain. Clients would wonder. New business would dry up. Marcus Webb's contract might be terminated before it even fully began. Her phone rang. It was Mrs. Harrison, her voice tight with concern. "Maya, dear, I just received a very strange call from someone at the Business Bureau asking about your services. They asked if I'd had any concerns about your professionalism or accuracy. I told them absolutely not, that you're the finest accountant I've ever worked with. What's going on?" "Someone filed a complaint against me," Maya said, her voice hollow. "A formal one. Who would do such a thing?" But Maya already knew. The timing was too perfect, too calculated. Brandon and Amber had realized she wasn't showing up defeated, so they decided to ensure her defeat themselves. She spent the day calling the Business Bureau, trying to understand the complaint. The representative was sympathetic, but firm protocol required a full investigation. It could take weeks, maybe months. "Can you tell me who filed it?" Maya asked. "It was submitted anonymously through our online portal, but they provided detailed allegations. We have to take these things seriously." After the call, Maya sat in her empty office and let herself break. Tears came hot, angry tears that she'd held back for too long. This wasn't just about the reunion anymore. This was her livelihood, her reputation, everything she'd sacrificed and struggled to build. They'd found a way to hurt her that had nothing to do with designer clothes or exotic vacations. They'd attacked the one thing she valued most, her integrity. Her phone buzzed. "Kaisha, cancel on me for lunch, and I'll never forgive you." Maya had forgotten they'd made plans. She almost texted back to cancel, but something stopped her. She couldn't fall apart. "Not now, at lunch." Kaisha took one look at Maya's face and ordered them both wine despite it being barely noon. "Talk," Kaisha commanded. Maya told her everything. About the complaint, the investigation, the timing. When she finished, Kaisha was quiet for a long moment. "So let me get this straight. They invited you to a reunion, tried to intimidate you, over the phone and in person, and when that didn't work, they filed a fraudulent complaint to destroy your business right before you're supposed to see them. I can't prove it was them. Maya, come on. You know it was them. Even if I know it, I can't prove it. And that doesn't help me now. My clients are going to get letters about this investigation. I could lose everything. Kaisha reached across the table and gripped Maya's hand. Listen to me. You are the most honest, hardworking person I know. Whatever investigation they do, it's going to prove that. But Maya, she paused. Maybe it's time to fight back. Really fight back. How? What can I do? You're an accountant. You're brilliant with details, with finding patterns, with uncovering the truth in numbers. So uncover the truth about them. Maya looked up. What do you mean? I mean, Brandon just sold a failing business. Amber's living off his money. They're not as untouchable as they want everyone to believe. If they're willing to file false complaints, what else are they willing to do? What else have they already done? The idea took root slowly. Maya had spent so long playing defense, trying to prove she deserved basic respect. But Kaisha was right. She had skills they didn't expect her to use. That evening, Maya did something she'd never done before. She started digging. She looked up public records for Brandon's dealership sale. She found the lawsuits, 3 of them, all from customers claiming they'd been sold defective vehicles with rollback odometers. The cases had been settled quietly, out of court. She found articles about the sale itself. Brandon had claimed to the press that he was pursuing new ventures, but the business filings told a different story. The dealership had been hemorrhaging money for 2 years before the sale. She looked up Amber's family business, a real estate company her father owned. Public tax records showed the company had claimed losses 3 years running. Not unusual, but interesting. She requested copies of business licenses and found something else. Amber was listed as a consultant for her father's company, drawing a comfortable salary despite no clear qualifications. Maya wasn't doing anything illegal. Everything she accessed was public record, the kind of information any diligent accountant might review. But seeing it all laid out, she began to understand. Brandon and Amber weren't successful. They were surviving. On family money, on carefully constructed images, on the privilege of generational wealth that let them fail upward while calling it success. And they'd attacked her because she represented something they couldn't stand. Genuine achievement without a safety net. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Maya Johnson? A woman's voice, professional and warm. Yes? This is Detective Angela Brooks with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. I'm calling about the complaint filed with the Business Bureau. I've been assigned to conduct a preliminary review. Maya's heart dropped. They'd sent a detective? Ms. Johnson, I want to be transparent with you. These kinds of anonymous complaints are unusual. I've reviewed your business records, spoken with several of your clients, and examined your credentials. Everything appears to be in perfect order. Then why? Because someone went to significant effort to create a paper trail that would trigger an investigation. Multiple anonymous complaints were filed through different channels, all within the same 24-hour period. That's not normal client behavior. That's coordinated. Maya's breath caught. You think someone targeted me? I think someone wanted to damage your reputation right before a public event. Ms. Johnson, do you have any enemies? Anyone who might want to hurt your business? Maya thought about the reunion, about Brandon's phone call, about Amber's performance at the bakery. Detective Brooks, she said slowly. I might know who did this, but I need to be sure before I say anything. Fair enough. In the meantime, I'll be recommending that this investigation be closed. There's no merit to any of the allegations. But Ms. Johnson, be careful. Whoever did this is willing to cross legal lines to hurt you. After the call ended, Maya sat in the gathering darkness of her office. They'd crossed a line. They tried to destroy her life, her business, everything she'd built, all to make sure she showed up to their reunion broken. But they'd miscalculated. They'd assumed she was still that scared 17-year-old girl who would accept cruelty silently. Maya picked up her phone and called Keisha. "Change of plans," she said, her voice steady with newfound resolve. "I'm not just going to that reunion to face my past. I'm going to make sure the truth comes out." "Now that's what I'm talking about," Keisha said. "What do you need?" "I need to gather evidence, and I need to be smart about it. Because when I walk into that reunion, I want to make sure everyone knows exactly who Brandon Mitchell and Amber Preston really are." The reunion was in 2 days, and Maya Johnson had work to do. Maya barely slept Tuesday night. Her kitchen table had become a war room, laptop open, legal pad covered in notes, public records printed and organized in neat stacks. She'd spent hours cross-referencing, verifying, building an undeniable picture. Brandon Mitchell's dealership had been cited for multiple violations before he sold it: fraudulent advertising, tampering with vehicle histories, predatory financing practices targeting elderly customers. The lawsuits weren't just civil. There had been a criminal investigation that was quietly dropped after substantial donations to the local police benevolent fund. Amber's father's real estate company had a troubling pattern too. Property sold to low-income families with inflated appraisals, hidden fees that ballooned mortgages, foreclosures that happened suspiciously fast. And Amber, listed as a consultant, had been present at many of these transactions according to public filings. But the most damning thing Maya discovered was recent. Just 2 months ago, Brandon had filed for a business license for a new venture, Mitchell Financial Services. He was planning to become a financial advisor, managing other people's money. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so dangerous. Wednesday morning, Maya called Detective Brooks back. "I think I know who filed the false complaint against me," she said. "And I think I know why." She laid it out carefully: the reunion, invitation, the intimidation attempts, the timing of the complaint. She explained about Brandon's history, about the pattern of unethical behavior, about his new venture that would put him in a position of financial trust. Detective Brooks was quiet for a moment. "Ms. Johnson, what you're describing is harassment and filing a false report. But I need more than circumstantial evidence to pursue charges. What if he did it from a traceable location?" The Business Bureau said the complaints came through an online portal. "Can't you trace the IP address?" "We can request that information, but it takes time. More time than you have before your reunion." Maya's mind worked quickly, falling into the analytical pattern she used when solving complex financial puzzles. What if he's done this before? Filed false complaints against business competitors? There was a pause. "That's an interesting question. Let me make some calls." 2 hours later, Detective Brooks called back. Her voice was different, sharper, more focused. "Ms. Johnson, I think you might be onto something. In the past year, 3 other small businesses in Lincoln County received anonymous complaints right before major contract negotiations. All 3 investigations found no wrongdoing. All 3 businesses were competitors to companies where Brandon Mitchell had financial interests. So he's used this tactic before." "It appears so. And if we can prove he filed a complaint against you, we can potentially connect him to the others." "But Maya, and I'm calling you Maya now because I want you to hear this clearly, you need to be very careful. People who engage in this kind of systematic intimidation don't stop when confronted. They escalate." After the call, Maya sat very still. She'd been so focused on the reunion, on facing her high school bullies, that she hadn't fully grasped the scope of what she'd uncovered. Brandon and Amber weren't just mean kids who'd grown into privileged adults. They were actively hurting people, using their resources and connections to destroy anyone who threatened their carefully constructed image. Her phone rang. It was Marcus Webb, her new client with the tech startup. Maya, I need to ask you something directly. I received a letter from the business bureau about an investigation into your firm. I'm sure it's nothing, but my investors are asking questions. Can you explain what's going on? This was it. The moment where everything could fall apart despite her innocence. Marcus, someone filed false complaints against my business because they wanted to damage my reputation. Detective Angela Brooks with the sheriff's office is investigating who filed them, and she's already confirmed there's no merit to any of the allegations. I can send you her contact information if you want to verify. There was a long pause. You know what? That won't be necessary. Patricia Harrison told me you had integrity, and in the 2 weeks I've worked with you, I've seen that myself. If someone's trying to take you down, you must be doing something right. My offer still stands. Maya's eyes burned with sudden tears. Thank you, Marcus. That means more than you know. Hey, I'm from a rough neighborhood in South Atlanta. I know what it's like when people try to keep you down. Don't let them win. That afternoon, Maya did something she'd been avoiding. She called her mentor from college, Professor Davis, who'd encouraged her to pursue accounting when she'd been drowning in grief over her mother's death. Maya Johnson, Professor Davis said warmly. To what do I owe this pleasure? Maya told her everything. The reunion, the bullying, the complaint, the investigation. When she finished, Professor Davis was quiet for a moment. Maya, do you remember what I told you when you first came to my office? Devastated because you thought you'd have to drop out. You said that obstacles reveal character. They don't create it. That's right. And this situation is revealing everyone's character very clearly. Yours included. You've uncovered evidence of a pattern of unethical behavior, and now you have a choice. You can use that information just to defend yourself, or you can use it to stop them from hurting anyone else. What are you saying? I'm saying that sometimes justice requires more than just surviving. Sometimes it requires standing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You have documentation of harmful business practices. You have evidence of a pattern. What you do with that information, that's up to you. That evening, Maya made a decision. She contacted her local news station, asking to speak with their consumer protection reporter. She explained that she had documentation of systematic business fraud targeting vulnerable communities. The reporter, a sharp woman named Jessica Rodriguez, agreed to meet her the next morning. Maya also sent a carefully worded email to the reunion organizers. Dear Lincoln High Reunion Committee, I'm looking forward to attending on Saturday. I'd like to request a few minutes during the program to share some thoughts about our shared experiences and where life has taken us since graduation. Please let me know if this would be possible. Sincerely, Maya Johnson. The response came quickly from Amber. Maya, of course, we'd love to hear from you. I'm sure you have such interesting stories to share. See you Saturday. Zoxo Maya could read between those exclamation points. They thought she was going to embarrass herself, to stand up and share some humble tale that would confirm their assumptions about where she'd ended up. They had no idea what was coming. Thursday morning, Maya met with Jessica Rodriguez at a coffee shop across town. She brought copies of everything: the public records, the pattern of complaints, the history of Brandon's dealership, the real estate practices. Jessica's eyes grew wider as she reviewed the materials. This is significant, Jessica said. This isn't just one bad business. This is systematic exploitation of vulnerable people. If I run this story, and I want to, it's going to be big. Are you prepared for the fallout? They already tried to destroy my business, Maya said. I'm prepared. Okay, but I need more. I need victims willing to go on record. I need your detective contact to confirm the investigation. And I need to verify every single piece of information before we go public. This kind of story, when it involves prominent local families, requires absolute accuracy. How long will that take? If I work fast, we might be able to run something by early next week. But Maya, once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Your name will be attached to this story. Some people will call you a hero. Others will call you bitter, vindictive, a troublemaker. Are you ready for that? Maya thought about the girl she'd been at Lincoln High, the one who'd stayed quiet, who'd accepted cruelty because speaking up felt more dangerous than enduring it. I'm ready, she said, because this isn't about revenge. It's about making sure they can't hurt anyone else. Jessica reached across the table and shook her hand. Then let's get to work. I'll start making calls today. That evening, Maya stood in front of her closet, looking at the emerald dress hanging there. The reunion was in 2 days. In 48 hours, she'd walk into the Grandview Hotel and face everyone who'd made her feel worthless. But now she'd be walking in with something they couldn't take away. The truth. Her phone buzzed. Kaisha. Girl, I just got your text about the news story. Are you absolutely sure about this? I'm sure, Maya said. Kaisha, they've been hurting people for years, using their privilege, their connections, their family money to exploit and intimidate. If I don't speak up, who will? Then I'm proud of you. And Maya, I'm coming with you Saturday. You're not walking into that room alone. Maya smiled. Thank you for everything. That's what sisters do. Now get some rest. You've got a big weekend ahead. After they hung up, Maya walked to her refrigerator and took down the reunion invitation. She looked at Amber's handwritten note, at the false enthusiasm, at the trap they'd tried to set, but traps only. Work on prey that doesn't see them coming. And Maya Johnson wasn't prey anymore. Saturday. Morning arrived with crystal clear skies and unseasonably cool air for June in Georgia. Maya woke early, her stomach tight with anticipation, but her mind clear. She'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, really. She'd been preparing for it for 10 years. Kaisha arrived at 9 with bagels and determination. Okay, let's go over the plan one more time, Kaisha said, settling onto Maya's couch with coffee. I arrive at 7, right when it starts, Maya said. I stay calm, observe, let them think everything's going according to their plan. When they give me time to speak, I keep it professional. I don't attack them personally. I just tell my truth. And if they try to humiliate you first, then I remember that their words only have the power I give them. Maya smiled slightly. Dr. Williams would be proud of how therapeutic I sound. Dr. Williams is going to get a glowing review after this. Kaisha reached over and squeezed Maya's hand. But seriously, Maya, are you ready for this? Once you speak, everything changes. You can't unsay it. I know. But Kaisha, I spent 10 years being quiet. 10 years believing that if I just kept my head down and worked hard, that would be enough. But it's not enough. Not when they're still out there hurting people. The hours passed slowly. Maya spent the afternoon in careful preparation, not just her appearance, but her mindset. She reviewed the notes she'd written, the simple but powerful words she planned to say. She meditated. She called Mrs. Harrison, who offered prayers and encouragement. At 5:30, Maya began getting ready. She showered, taking her time, washing away the last residue of the scared girl she'd once been. She styled her natural hair in soft curls that framed her face beautifully. She applied makeup with a steady hand, subtle, elegant, enhancing rather than hiding. Then she put on the emerald dress. Looking at herself in the mirror, Maya barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked confident, successful, present. She looked like someone who belonged anywhere she chose to be. Kaisha arrived at 6:15 in a stunning burgundy dress, her hair swept up, looking every inch the successful corporate lawyer she'd become. Girl, Kaisha breathed when she saw Maya. "You look like money in class had a baby. And that baby got a degree in taking no mess." Maya laughed, some of the tension breaking. "Is that a compliment?" "That's the highest compliment I can give." "You ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be." They drove to the Grandview Hotel in Kaisha's car, arriving at exactly 7 o'clock. The parking lot was filled with luxury vehicles, Mercedes, BMWs, a Porsche, several large SUVs that cost more than Maya's annual rent. "Deep breath," Kaisha said as they parked. "Remember, you've already won. Everything that happens in there is just confirming what you already know about yourself." The hotel ballroom had been decorated in Lincoln High's colors, blue and gold. A banner proclaimed Lincoln High 10-year reunion above a table of name tags. Soft music played, and groups of former classmates stood in clusters, drinks in hand, already engaged in the competitive ritual of comparing lives. Maya picked up her name tag. Someone had written "Charity Case" under her printed name in small letters. She felt Kaisha tense beside her. "Childish," Maya murmured, putting on the name tag anyway. Let them show everyone exactly who they were. They walked into the ballroom together, and Maya felt the moment people began to notice her. Conversations paused. Heads turned. She could see the quick assessments happening. The way eyes traveled from her dress to her face to Kaisha beside her. Calculating, recalculating. Maya Johnson? A man approached Tom Chun, who'd been student council president. "Wow, you look amazing. I heard you're an accountant now?" "That's great. I own my own accounting firm," Maya corrected gently. "Johnson and Associates." "That's fantastic. Really great." Tom seemed genuinely pleased, which surprised her. "Good for you, Maya. Seriously." As he walked away, more people approached. Some were kind, curious about her life. Others kept their distance, whispering. Maya could feel Amber and Brandon watching from across the room, their expressions unreadable. At 7:30, the formal program began. The reunion committee chair, a woman named Lisa, who'd been neutral toward Maya in high school, welcomed everyone and invited people to share updates about their lives. Several people spoke. The former quarterback talked about his job in pharmaceutical sales. The valedictorian announced she was finishing her medical residency. Each story was met with polite applause. Then Amber stood up, microphone in hand, stunning in a white dress that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. "Hi, everyone. For those who don't remember me, I'm Amber Preston, well, Amber Mitchell now." She smiled, gesturing to Brandon. "I just want to say how wonderful it is to see everyone. Some of us have done so well, living in amazing places, building incredible careers. It's inspiring, really," her eyes found Maya. "And some of us stayed right here in our little town, doing our simple jobs, living simple lives. And you know what? That's okay too. Not everyone can be extraordinary. The world needs ordinary people too." The room went very quiet. Several people looked uncomfortable. "In fact," Amber continued, her smile sharpening, "we wanted to make sure everyone felt included tonight. That's why we personally invited some people who might not have felt comfortable coming otherwise. People who maybe didn't have the best experience at Lincoln High, but hopefully have made peace with where they ended up." She looked directly at Maya. "Maya Johnson, would you like to share? Tell us about your life." This was the moment they'd been building toward. The public humiliation they'd carefully orchestrated. Maya stood slowly. Kaisha's hand briefly squeezed hers under the table. She walked to the front and took the microphone from Amber, whose smile was triumphant. Brandon stood near the bar, phone out, probably ready to record her humiliation. Maya looked out at the room full of faces, some curious, some pitying, some gleeful with anticipation of drama. "Thank you, Amber," Maya said, her voice steady and clear. "You're right. I did stay in our town. I do have a simple job. I'm an accountant, and I own a small firm that serves working families and small business owners. She paused, letting that sink in. I spent 10 years building that business. Building relationships with people who trusted me with their financial futures. People like Mrs. Patricia Harrison, a retired teacher who needed help planning her retirement. Like the Garcia family, who own a small restaurant and needed someone who understood what every dollar means. Like Jasmine Thompson, who's building a salon from nothing and needs someone who remembers what it's like to count every penny. The room was absolutely silent now. Amber asked me to talk about my life. So here's the truth. My life isn't glamorous. I don't vacation in Paris or Dubai. I drive a 7-year-old Honda. I live in a studio apartment. By some standards, I haven't achieved much at all. She could see Amber's smile growing. See Brandon leaning forward. But here's what I have achieved. I've helped 23 small businesses stay open during economic hardship. I've helped 47 families save enough money to send their kids to college. I've never filed a fraudulent report. I've never sold someone a defective product. I've never exploited someone's lack of knowledge to make a profit. The temperature in the room shifted. People were no longer looking at Maya with pity. They were listening. Someone recently filed false complaints against my business, Maya continued, her voice calm but carrying weight. Anonymous complaints designed to destroy my reputation right before this reunion. Complaints that a detective with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office determined were coordinated and fraudulent. Complaints that fit a pattern of similar actions taken against other small businesses in our community over the past year. Amber's face had gone pale. Brandon had lowered his phone. I'm not saying this to attack anyone, Maya said. I'm saying it because I realized something while preparing to come here tonight. For 10 years, I carried shame about who I was in high school. I believed the names people called me. I believed I was less than because I had less than. Her eyes found Amber's, then Brandon's. But the truth is, I never had anything to be ashamed of. Being poor isn't a moral failure. Struggling isn't weakness. Surviving hardship while maintaining integrity, that's actually worth celebrating. She handed the microphone back to a speechless Amber and walked back to her seat. The room erupted not in applause, but in urgent whispers and people pulling out phones. In the sudden crackling energy of scandal breaking open, Kaisha gripped her hand under the table. Maya, she whispered. Look, Detective Angela Brooks had just walked into the ballroom, accompanied by another officer. They walked directly to Brandon Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, we need you to come with us to answer some questions about filing false police reports and business complaints. The reunion dissolved into chaos at the Grandview Hotel. Ballroom transformed from a carefully orchestrated social event into something else entirely. A room where truth had suddenly, violently, crashed through the facade of civility. Brandon Mitchell stood frozen as Detective Brooks repeated her request. His face cycled through shock, anger, and finally, calculation. I have no idea what you're talking about, he said, his voice carrying across the now silent room. This is harassment. I'm at a private event. We can do this here or at the station, Mr. Mitchell, Detective Brooks said calmly. Your choice. Amber rushed to Brandon's side, her white dress swishing, her face a mask of indignant fury. This is ridiculous. Brandon hasn't done anything wrong. This is clearly some kind of setup. Her eyes locked on Maya. This is her doing, isn't it? She's been trying to ruin us. Maya remained seated, Kaisha's hand steady in hers. She said nothing. Detective Brooks turned to Amber. Ma'am, we'd also like to ask you some questions. You're listed as a witness on several of the complaint forms filed against Ms. Johnson's business. We need to verify some information. I never. Amber stopped mid-sentence, realizing what she'd almost admitted. Lisa, the reunion committee chair, stepped forward nervously. Detective, is this really necessary right now? Can't this wait until, ma'am? We've been conducting an investigation into a series of fraudulent business complaints filed in Lincoln County over the past 18 months. That investigation led us here tonight. I apologize for the disruption, but this is official police business. Brandon made a sudden decision. Fine, I'll come answer your questions, because I have nothing to hide. He straightened his expensive suit jacket. This is all a misunderstanding. Maya Johnson has been harassing me and my wife since we invited her to this reunion. She's clearly unstable. Mr. Mitchell, Detective Brooks interrupted. I'm going to stop you right there. Anything you say can be used against you. I suggest you save your statements for the station. As Brandon and Amber were escorted out, not in handcuffs, but clearly not by choice, the ballroom erupted in conversation. Maya felt dozens of eyes on her. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked shocked. A few looked angry, as if she'd violated some unspoken rule by bringing reality into their carefully maintained illusion. Tom Chun approached her table. Maya, I had no idea. Brandon's dealership sold my parents a car 3 years ago. The transmission failed after 6 months, and he refused to honor the warranty. My dad's still paying off that loan. He paused. Thank you for speaking up. Others began approaching, not many, but enough. A woman named Jennifer admitted that Brandon's dealership had ripped off her grandmother. A man named Marcus, not her client. A different Marcus said Amber's father's real estate company had foreclosed on his family's home through questionable practices, but not everyone was supportive. A group near the bar was whispering and shooting hostile looks at Maya. She caught fragments. ... always knew she was bitter ... jealous because she never made anything of herself. ... probably made up those complaints herself for attention ... Kaisha leaned close. Want to leave? Maya considered it, then shook her head. No, I said what I came here to say. If they want me to leave, they'll have to ask. Lisa approached their table, her expression conflicted. Maya, I think, given the circumstances, it might be best if ... If I leave? Maya finished quietly. So, everyone can be comfortable again? It's just that this is supposed to be a celebration, and, Lisa, someone filed false police reports to try to destroy my business, because they didn't want me to come here and feel good about myself. That same person has apparently been doing similar things to other people in our community for over a year. And you want me to leave so everyone can go back to celebrating? Lisa opened her mouth, closed it, then walked away without answering. But then something unexpected happened. Tom Chun stood up and raised his glass. I'd like to make a toast, he announced loudly, and the room gradually quieted. To Maya Johnson, for having more courage in one evening than most of us have shown in 10 years. Several people raised their glasses. Not everyone, maybe a third of the room, but enough to matter. Enough to show Maya she wasn't completely alone. As the evening wore on, Maya learned something interesting. The reunion's careful social hierarchy was crumbling. People who'd been part of the popular crowd in high school were now separating into camps, those defending Brandon and Amber, and those who'd apparently been waiting for someone to finally call out behavior they'd witnessed but never confronted. Around 9 o'clock, Jessica Rodriguez, the reporter Maya had met with, appeared in the doorway with a camera operator. Someone had tipped her off about the police presence at the reunion. Lisa tried to intercept her, but Jessica was experienced at navigating resistance. Within minutes, she'd set up near the entrance and was interviewing people as they left, getting reactions, gathering statements, building her story. Maya watched from across the room, feeling strangely detached from it all. This wasn't how she'd imagined the evening going. She'd expected to speak her truth and leave. She hadn't expected Brandon to be questioned by police at the actual reunion. She hadn't expected the whole thing to explode so publicly. Her phone buzzed. A text from Detective Brooks. "Thank you for your patience with this investigation. We've been building a case against Mr. Mitchell for weeks. Your complaint gave us the final piece we needed. He's being charged with filing false reports and potentially fraud. I'll be in touch with more details." "You did the right thing." Maya showed the text to Kaisha. "Girl," Kaisha breathed. "You just took down the king and queen of Lincoln High." "I didn't take them down," Maya said quietly. "They took themselves down. I just stopped being quiet about it." Around 10 o'clock, people started leaving in earnest. Some avoided Maya's eyes as they left. Others stopped by her table, some to thank her. Others to tell their own stories of being mistreated by Brandon's business practices or Amber's family's real estate schemes. A woman named Claire, who'd been in Maya's English class, sat down in an empty chair at their table. "Maya, I need to tell you something. Senior year, I wanted to vote for you for the student council. You'd written that essay about financial literacy that I thought was brilliant. But Amber told everyone that voting for you would be social side. I was too scared to stand up to her." Claire's eyes were red. "I've regretted that for 10 years. Claire, we were kids," Maya said gently. "We were old enough to know better. And I'm sorry. For not speaking up then. For letting them make you feel less than." Claire stood, squeezing Maya's shoulder. "What you did tonight, that took real strength. The kind I didn't have back then." As the ballroom emptied, Maya and Kaisha finally stood to leave. Lisa caught them at the door. "Maya, I just want you to know. I had no idea about any of this. About what Brandon and Amber were really like, about the complaints they filed, any of it." Maya studied her for a moment. "Lisa, you might not have known the details, but you knew they were cruel to me in high school. You saw it happen. You never said anything then, and tonight your first instinct was to ask me to leave so everyone else could be comfortable. So maybe you didn't know specifics, but you knew enough." Lisa's face crumpled slightly. "You're right. I'm sorry. I appreciate that," Maya said. "I really do." Outside, the cool night air was a relief after the stifling tension of the ballroom. Maya and Kaisha walked to the car in silence. Once they were inside, Kaisha turned to her. "How are you feeling?" Maya considered the question carefully. Tired, overwhelmed, but also lighter? Is that strange? Not strange at all. You've been carrying this weight for 10 years. Tonight, you finally put it down. As Kaisha drove them back toward Maya's apartment, Maya's phone rang. An unknown number, but she answered. "Miss Johnson? This is Jessica Rodriguez. I'm sorry to call so late, but I wanted you to know I just finished interviewing Detective Brooks. She confirmed that Brandon Mitchell is being charged with multiple counts of filing false police reports and business fraud. My story runs tomorrow morning, front page. Jessica, I need to ask you something. Can you keep my name out of it? At least the part about me being his victim?" There was a pause. "Maya, you're a significant part of this story. You're the one who reported the pattern. I know. But this story is bigger than my personal grievance. It's about him systematically targeting small businesses, vulnerable people. If you focus on me and the reunion drama, that's what people will remember. If you focus on his actual victims, the families he defrauded, the small business owners he tried to destroy, that's the story that matters." Another pause. "You're right. Okay. I'll focus the story on the broader pattern. But Maya, eventually, people are going to know you're the one who stood up. Are you ready for that?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "But I'll deal with it when it happens." After hanging up, Maya leaned her head against the car window, watching the familiar streets of her town pass by. This was where she'd grown up, where she'd suffered, where she'd built her life. Tomorrow, everything might change. Her name might become public. She might face backlash from people who'd rather not see the town's prominent families held accountable. But tonight, she'd done something she'd needed to do for 10 years. She'd told the truth, and she'd survived it. Kaisha? Maya said softly, "Yeah? Thank you. For being here. For believing in me. Always, sister. Always." They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence. Two women who'd both fought their own battles and understood the cost of standing up. Tomorrow would bring whatever it would bring. But tonight, Maya Johnson could finally rest. Maya woke Sunday morning to her phone vibrating continuously on her nightstand. Sunlight streamed through her curtains, and for one peaceful moment, she'd forgotten everything that had happened. Then she saw the notifications. 47 missed calls. 123 text messages. Her email inbox showing 99 unread messages. She sat up slowly, her heart racing. Kaisha had stayed over, sleeping on Maya's couch, and now appeared in the doorway with her own phone in hand. "Maya, you need to see this." The story had gone viral. Jessica Rodriguez's article, "Pattern of Fraud. Local businessman charged after years of targeting small businesses," was the top story on the local news website. But it hadn't stayed local. Regional news had picked it up. Then state news. By morning, it was trending on social media. The article was exactly what Maya had asked for, focused on Brandon's systematic fraud, the victims he'd heard, the pattern of abuse. Maya's name appeared only once, as a local accountant who first noticed the pattern and reported it to authorities. But the reunion had been attended by 200 people. Many had phones. Several had posted about the dramatic police arrival on social media. By morning, someone had pieced together that the local accountant was the same woman who'd spoken so powerfully before. Brandon was led away. Maya's phone rang. "Mrs. Harrison. My dear girl, are you all right? I've been worried sick." "I'm okay. Mrs. Harrison, I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "Find out?" "Darling, I'm proud of you. I've already had 3 friends call me asking if you're taking new clients. And Maya, my nephew, owns a small accounting firm in Atlanta. He's been looking for an ethical, talented accountant to partner with. Would you be interested in discussing an expansion?" Maya blinked, processing this. Yes, I would." After Mrs. Harrison hung up, the calls kept coming. Some were from reporters requesting interviews. Many were from former clients expressing support. Several were from people she didn't know, other business owners who'd been targeted by Brandon, wanting to add their stories to the investigation. But not all the messages were positive. An email from someone claiming to be Amber's cousin. "You're a jealous, bitter woman who couldn't handle seeing successful people happy. I hope you're proud of destroying a family." A voicemail from an unknown number. Typical. Can't succeed on your own, so you tear others down. No one's going to want to work with a snitch. A text from a Lincoln High classmate. "Always knew you were trouble. Should have stayed in your place." Maya read each one, feeling the old shame trying to creep back in. But then, Kaisha sat beside her and took the phone gently from her hands. "No, you're not doing this to yourself. These people are protecting their worldview. They need you to be wrong, because if you're right, they have to examine their own complicity. Don't give them that power." By noon, Detective Brooks called with an update. "Ms. Johnson, I wanted you to know that since the story broke, we've received 17 additional complaints about Mitchell's business practices. We've also discovered that Mr. Mitchell was planning to launch his financial services company next month, which would have given him access to vulnerable people's retirement savings. Your action likely prevented significant harm." "What about Amber?" Maya asked. "Mrs. Mitchell is cooperating with our investigation. She's providing information about her father's real estate company in exchange for reduced charges. It appears she was aware of and participated in some questionable practices, but she wasn't the primary architect. We're investigating further. After the call, Maya sat quietly at her kitchen table. Kaisha had gone out to get them lunch, giving her space to process everything. Her laptop was open to her business email. Among the hate mail were dozens of messages from potential clients. People who'd been searching for an accountant they could trust. People who'd read the story and decided that someone willing to stand up to fraud was exactly who they wanted managing their finances. There was also an email from Marcus Webb, her tech startup client. Maya, I hope you're holding up okay. I want you to know that my entire investment team has read the article, and we're more confident than ever in having you handle our accounting. Integrity isn't just a buzzword to us, it's essential. You've demonstrated yours beyond doubt. Also, I've recommended you to 3 other startups in my network. Expect calls this week. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. This was real. The consequences were real, yes, both good and bad, but the support was real too. Her phone rang again. This time, it was a number she recognized but hadn't expected to see, Tom Chun, from the reunion. Maya, I hope I'm not overstepping, but a group of us from Lincoln High have been talking. About 12 of us who saw what happened last night, who've been discussing it all morning. We want you to know that we support you. We also want to apologize for not speaking up sooner in high school, and even at the reunion before things escalated. Tom, you don't have to. No, we do. We've been complicit in our silence. Some of us benefited from the same system that hurt you. We're not asking for forgiveness or praise. We just want you to know that we see you now. We see what you did and why it mattered. After he hung up, Maya walked to her window. Outside, life in her neighborhood continued normally. Children played in the street. Mr. Patterson watered his garden. The world hadn't stopped because hers had transformed. When Kaisha returned with lunch, they ate quietly, processing the morning's chaos. What happens now? Kaisha finally asked. I don't know, Maya admitted. I keep my business running. I take the new clients who reach out. I deal with the investigation as it unfolds. I live my life. That's it? After everything? Maya smiled slightly. What else is there? I didn't do this to become famous or to destroy Brandon and Amber. I did it to stop them from hurting people. Mission accomplished. Now I go back to being who I've always been, just maybe with a few more clients and a lot less shame. That afternoon, Maya did something she'd been avoiding. She wrote a statement and posted it to her business's website. To my clients and community, you may have seen recent news coverage involving Mitchell Financial Services and related investigations. I want you to know that Johnson & Associates remains committed to the same principles we've always held: integrity, transparency, and service to our community. I'm grateful for your continued trust and support. For those reaching out with new inquiries, thank you. I'm reviewing all requests and will respond as quickly as possible. Sincerely, Maya Johnson. The statement was simple, professional, and truthful. Just like everything else she'd built. By evening, the storm had settled into something more manageable. The viral moment was passing. Other stories were taking over the news cycle. Life was returning to something resembling normal. Maya and Kaisha ordered pizza and watched a mindless comedy, both of them desperately needing to think about anything other than reunions, fraud investigations, and viral news stories. You know what's wild? Kaisha said during a quiet moment. A week ago, you were terrified of going to that reunion. You thought it would destroy you. Instead, you walked in there and changed everything. I didn't change everything, Maya protested. I just told the truth. Maya, sometimes the truth changes everything. That night after Kaisha left, Maya sat alone in her apartment. She thought about the girl she'd been at Lincoln, high, scared, ashamed, convinced she was less than everyone around her. She thought about the woman she'd become, still humble, still simple in many ways, but no longer carrying shame that didn't belong to her. She thought about her mother, who died believing Maya would make something of herself, who'd cleaned houses while sick with cancer so Maya could finish high school, who'd never lived to see her daughter graduate college, start a business, stand up for herself and others. "I did it, Mama," Maya whispered to the empty room. "I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But I'm standing. And I'm not ashamed anymore." Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. "Ms. Johnson, this is Claire from the reunion. I wanted you to know that I registered to vote today. I'm 38 years old, and I've never voted because I never thought my voice mattered. But watching you last night made me realize that silence is a choice. And I'm done choosing silence. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like." Maya read the message 3 times, tears sliding down her cheeks. This was why it had all mattered. Not the vindication. Not the business growth. Not even the justice of seeing Brandon face consequences. It was this. One person finding their voice, because she'd found hers. Maya climbed into bed that night, exhausted but peaceful. Tomorrow she'd wake up and go back to work. She'd return calls from potential clients. She'd help families save for college and small businesses manage their cash flow. She'd live her simple, ordinary life. But it would be a life she'd chosen. A life she'd fought for. A life she'd refused to let others define. And in the end, that was the only victory that truly mattered. 3 months later, Maya stood in the lobby of a much larger office space. Johnson and Associates Accounting was being painted on the glass door, but this time, there really would be associates. She'd hired 2 recent graduates and was training them in her approach: integrity first, community service always, profit as a byproduct of doing good work. Marcus Webb's company had grown even faster than projected. The Garcia's restaurant had opened a second location. Jasmine's salon was thriving. Mrs. Harrison's nephew had indeed partnered with Maya, bringing her into a network of ethical accounting firms across the state. Brandon Mitchell was awaiting trial on multiple fraud charges. Amber had divorced him and reportedly moved to another state, seeking a fresh start away from her family's business. The real estate company was under investigation, and several of its practices had been shut down. The reunion incident had faded from viral sensation to fictional, local legend, one of those stories people told about standing up to bullies, about truth winning out, about the unexpected power of a single honest voice. But Maya thought about it less and less. She was too busy living her life to spend time reliving her moment of vindication. She'd learned something important. Revenge was never as satisfying as simply refusing to carry someone else's shame. Justice wasn't about seeing your enemies fall. It was about building something so solid, so true, that no one could take it from you. As she stood in her new office, watching her name being painted on the door, Maya thought about that scared girl at Lincoln High one last time. Then she let her go. That girl had served her purpose. She'd survived long enough to become this woman, and this woman had work to do. The end.